I never thought I'd find lipstick stains on my husband's shirt that didn't belong to me. It wasn't the shade that gave it away, it was the shimmer. I don't wear shimmer. That was the moment everything I thought I knew about my marriage began to crack. My name's Emily, and I've been married to Daniel for 8 years. We were the couple everyone envied. At least that's what they told us. You two are perfect, they'd say. Perfect. God, I hate that word now. Perfection hides rot so well. It started small. Late night meetings. Work trips that seemed to pop up out of nowhere. His phone face down on the counter. The kind of things you notice but tell yourself not to overthink. Because you trust him. Because you love him. Because you don't want to be that paranoid wife. But then came the scent, vanilla and something floral, lingering on his jacket when he hugged me goodnight. Not my perfume. I remember standing in our laundry room, holding that jacket, breathing it in like a madwoman, trying to find logic in madness. Maybe a coworker hugged him goodbye. Maybe he brushed past someone. Maybe. But the heart knows. The body knows before the mind catches up. I started watching him closer, memorizing his patterns. He used to text me good morning every day. Suddenly, it was every other day. His laughter changed too, shorter, sharper. The way he looked at his phone changed, like the world inside it mattered more than the one sitting across from him at dinner. One night, he came home smelling of wine and hotel soap. Not the soap we use. He said he'd been at a client dinner, that he'd had one too many. I nodded, pretending to believe him, even as my stomach twisted. That night, he turned his back to me in bed. I stared at the ceiling for hours, listening to the rhythm of his breathing, wondering if it matched hers. A week later, I decided to test him. It wasn't planned. It just happened. He told me he'd be at work late again. So I made him dinner, set the table, lit candles, and waited. Then I texted him. I made your favorite. You sure you can't come home early? He read it instantly. No reply. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Then the 3 dots appeared. Sorry, babe. Stuck in a meeting. Don't wait up. My heart sank. I called his office. No answer. I called again. The receptionist said he'd left an hour ago. My hands were shaking. I drove to his office anyway just to make sure. His car wasn't there. But another one was. Her car. Lisa. My best friend. My maid of honor. The woman who once cried in my arms when her boyfriend cheated on her. I froze. My throat closed up. I told myself it was coincidence. She worked nearby. It had to be. But then I saw them. Through the tinted glass of her car. His hand on her face. Her lips on his. I don't remember how long I stood there, staring. My heart didn't just break. It detonated. When I finally drove home, I didn't cry. Not yet. I just felt empty. Like someone had scooped out my insides and left a shell behind. He came home at midnight, acting tired, fake yawning, pretending to stretch. I watched him take off his tie, pour himself a drink, smile at me like nothing happened. You're quiet, he said. Rough day. I wanted to scream, to throw the glass at his lying face, but instead, I just smiled. You could say that, I whispered. He kissed my forehead before heading to the shower. I stared at his phone on the counter. It buzzed. A message from Lisa. Miss you already. I took a screenshot, sent it to my own phone, then deleted the message before he could see. That was the night I decided not to confront him. Not yet. Because I wanted to see how deep the lies went. Because part of me needed proof that I wasn't crazy. I didn't realize then that this was only the beginning. The next morning, I acted normal. I made breakfast, packed his lunch, kissed him goodbye. I played the part of the loving wife so perfectly that even I almost believed it. But inside, I was burning. Every move he made, every word he spoke, every glance he gave me felt like a knife twisted deeper. I spent the day replaying every memory of Lisa in my head. The girls' nights, the shared secrets, the laughter. She'd been in my home hundreds of times. She'd sat on my couch, held my baby niece, helped me plan Daniel's surprise birthday party. And the entire time, she was sleeping with him behind my back. I started digging. Quietly. Carefully. I knew his passwords. He thought I didn't. I found the hidden folder in his email. Work receipts.
Cute name.
Inside were hotel confirmations, restaurant bills for two, Uber rides that ended near Lisa's apartment. I read every detail until the words blurred. A 2-night stay in Chicago, business trip. Dinner for two at a rooftop restaurant. Champagne. Strawberries. Happy anniversary, my love. The receipt note read. Anniversary? Our anniversary was 3 months ago. I wanted to throw up. I saved everything, every email, every receipt, every photo I could find. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew I needed it.
Proof.
Evidence of betrayal. That weekend, I told Daniel I was visiting my sister. I wasn't. I followed him. He told me he had a golf outing with clients. Instead, he drove straight to Lisa's. I watched them from my car as he got out, carrying a bottle of wine and flowers. Flowers. For her. The same lilies he used to bring me when we were dating. They kissed in the driveway like teenagers.
No hesitation. No guilt.
I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I don't remember driving away, but I ended up parked at a gas station 30 minutes later, sobbing like a child. Something inside me snapped that day. I wasn't going to be the pathetic wife who just finds out. I was going to be the one who makes them pay. But not with violence. With precision. With silence. I started my own act. I texted Lisa, like nothing was wrong. Hey, wanna grab brunch Sunday? She agreed instantly, of course. Guilt makes people eager to please. When we met, she smiled that same fake smile she always did when she wanted to hide something. I watched her over my coffee cup, wondering if she could feel the weight of what I knew. You look tired, she said. Everything okay? Yeah, I said softly. Just a lot on my mind lately. She reached across the table and touched my hand. You know you can tell me anything, right? The audacity almost made me laugh. Of course, I said. You're my best friend. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. Part of me wanted to throw my drink in her face, right there. But another part wanted to let her keep digging her own grave. After brunch, I hugged her goodbye, longer than usual. Love you, Lise, I said. She froze for a split second, then forced a smile. Love you too. I walked away without looking back. That night, Daniel came home earlier than usual, smiling, holding takeout from my favorite place. Thought we could do a movie night, he said. I looked at him, at his familiar face, and for a second I almost missed the man I thought he was. Almost. Sure, I said. We sat on the couch, eating, watching some dumb comedy. He laughed, and I laughed too because it was easier than crying. He reached for my hand halfway through the movie, and I let him. Let him hold me, touch me, kiss me, like nothing had changed. But in my mind, I was already writing the ending of our story. I started recording things, voice memos, screenshots, videos. A breadcrumb trail of deceit. And the deeper I went, the more twisted it became. He wasn't just cheating on me. He was planning a future with her. I found the text. I'll tell her after the holidays. She deserves the truth. After the holidays. Like I was an item on his to-do list. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because suddenly, an idea started forming. If he was going to leave me, I'd make sure he regretted it for the rest of his life. I started spending money on things he didn't notice, things that would make sense later. New accounts. New locks. Quiet consultations with a lawyer. I wasn't just getting revenge. I was preparing for freedom. But something happened that I didn't expect. Lisa called me one night. Crying. Can we talk? I hesitated but said yes. She came over, eyes red, shaking. I did something terrible, she said. I can't live with it anymore. My heart pounded. She was going to confess. Finally. What did you do, Lisa? I asked, keeping my voice calm. She covered her face. It's Daniel. I didn't mean for it to happen, I cut her off. How long? She froze. What? How long have you been sleeping with my husband? Her eyes went wide. You know? Since the night you told me you were sick and couldn't come to dinner. Turns out you were very busy. Her lip trembled. It's not what you think. I laughed. Really? Then what is it, Lisa? Tell me how betrayal works now. She started sobbing, apologizing over and over. He said he was leaving you. He said you didn't love him anymore. I didn't mean to fall in love with him. I whispered. You think this is love? I stood up, shaking. Get out of my house. She tried to speak, but I screamed. Get out. She ran out crying. I collapsed on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. That was the moment I knew there was no fixing any of it. No forgiveness. No coming back. The next day, I woke up with a strange calmness. Because now I had everything I needed. The truth. The evidence. The motive. All that was left was the reveal. But it didn't go how I planned. Because someone else found out first. Someone else found out first, and it felt like being punched by a stranger. It wasn't Lisa's trembling confession that exposed everything. It was Claire, Daniel's younger sister, storming into my kitchen the morning after I'd planned to set the trap. She slammed her palm on the counter, so hard my coffee jumped. Do you know what they're doing? She hissed, eyes wild. Before I could answer, she shoved her phone at me, her thumb open on a thread of messages that read like a murder weapon. Hotel tonight? Can't wait to see you. I saw your wife at brunch, don't worry. The messages were time-stamped between Daniel and Lisa, and the last one had Claire's own name attached as the recipient. Claire had seen them because she'd been cleaning out Daniel's old phone. Just helping, she said, and the thread popped up. She didn't know what to do, so she did what most people do with a nuclear-grade secret. She brought it to someone else, and that someone else was me. I felt the room tilt. My carefully constructed calm, my patience, my evidence, my slow-burn trap, crumbled into dust, not because she'd exposed them, but because I realized how fragile my plan had been. I'm sorry, Claire said. I didn't mean, go, I told her. Leave. She left. The silence afterward was worse than any scream. I called Daniel at work. He didn't answer. I drove to his office anyway because my legs moved before my brain did, because the person I loved most in the world had just been reduced to a series of texts and receipts and the sensation of someone else's body in what used to be exclusively mine. When I got there, his car was in the lot, but the lights in his office were dark. I stood under the harsh fluorescent bulbs and watched people pass by like I was a ghost no one acknowledged. I should have been angry then. Instead, I was numb. Later that night, at home, when he finally walked in with his coat slung over his shoulder and a smile he used to reserve for holidays, I could have ripped him apart before the neighbors called the cops. You're quiet, he said, the same line he'd used twice before. Rough day, I said. He shrugged and poured himself a drink. We need to talk, I said, because you say the thing when the dam is already leaking. He laughed, a short, surprised sound. About what? Work. About you, about us. He closed the fridge and leaned against it. You look like you saw a ghost. I let him think I was crazy for a moment longer. Do you want to know something? I asked softly. What? I know. That made him sit up straight, like a dog that had been scolded. Know what? Everything. He swallowed. That's not funny. I'm not joking. I played him the voicemail from the hotel concierge that I'd managed to buy with a burner phone. 2 voices in the background, laughter, a name I never expected to hear in the same breath as mine. Daniel went white. He tried to explain. It's not what you think, he said. Lisa, save it. I cut him off because I didn't want to hear the rehearsed lines of shame that always sound like rehearsed lines. I wanted to make him squirm. So I did something I never thought I would. I laid everything out on the kitchen table. Screenshots, hotel receipts, the lipstick stain I'd carefully snipped from the cuff of his work shirt and sealed in an evidence bag, the voice memo, the text where he promised to tell me after the holidays. He sank into a chair and put his head in his hands like a man counting the cost. I thought you'd leave me, he whispered finally. I thought you didn't want this marriage anymore. The rawness in his voice should have softened me. Instead, it made the bile rise in my throat because the truth was uglier and thinner than I'd ever let it be. You thought, I repeated. So you cheated because you thought I didn't love you? That's your reason.
He shook his head.
It's not like that. Then how is it? I demanded. Tell me how sneaking around with my friend and writing miss you already is anything but cowardice.
He didn't speak.
He couldn't. And in that silence, I thought I heard the echo of my own footsteps retreating from the woman I used to be, a woman who would have forgiven, patched things up, cried into a pillow, and made the marriage whole again, because that's what women do, right? We forgive. We fix. We keep the house standing. But something had changed in me. The idea of quietly repairing a home built on lies made me ill. The plan that had been simmering in the back of my head, evidence, lawyer calls, quiet accounts, locks changed in the night, kicked into motion. I went cold, methodical. I hired an attorney under the pretense of a financial consultation. I opened accounts that left no trail to him. I recorded conversations where he admitted plans and timelines, conversations that would sound like ordinary marital quarreling to a stranger, but to me were admissions. I kept living the life we'd built. School runs, the grocery lists, the polite smiles at the PDA, while quietly setting the stage for the day I would no longer have to pretend. I thought I was the architect of every move after that. I thought I controlled the chessboard. Then a voicemail arrived that made all my careful blueprints look like a child's doodle. It was from a number I didn't know. He, a man's voice, uncertain, said, "Emily, it's Mark from HR. I need to speak with you about Daniel. It's urgent." I went pale. What is it? I mouthed to no one. The next morning, Mark sat across from me in a conference room with the blinds pulled down like a stage curtain. "We've received complaints," he said. "Nothing about you, directly, but about Daniel's conduct. There's talk of an internal investigation." My stomach dropped into my shoes. "Who? Anonymous," Mark said. "Someone sent a packet, receipts, a photo, a phone recording, everything." My throat tightened. When? Last night. Someone else had beaten me to the reveal, but not in the way I feared. Whoever had sent the packet wanted Daniel gone, and they weren't just out for moral high ground. They included accounting records showing discrepancies in expense reports, transfers to offsite accounts, refunds to anonymous vendors, evidence of potential embezzlement. It wasn't just infidelity on the table anymore, it was criminality. I thought of Daniel's comfortable life, the dinners, the promotions, the way his name opened doors. Suddenly, the man I knew looked like a stranger, wearing a well-cut suit. "Do you think Daniel did this?" Mark asked. "I don't know," I said, which was the truth. "But if he did, he's been lying to a lot more people than me." That evening, I watched him pack his briefcase with Olympic stillness. "Business trip," he said, like it was the only phrase left in his dictionary. I watched him go, and part of me rejoiced at the thought of him out of my sight. The other part cursed the hollow space he left. The investigation played out like a slow-burning fuse. HR called in auditors. Lawyers were consulted. Board members whispered in hallways. Daniel made mistakes. One too many expense reports that didn't reconcile, receipts that matched the dates of his business trips that corresponded with the nude selfies I'd found in the hidden folder on his phone. The company put him on leave. Our neighbors began to look at me differently. The way people look at a house after the police tape comes down, suspicious, curious, whispering theories. I thought that humiliation would be the final dagger. It wasn't. The real twist came on a rainy Thursday when I received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a thumb drive and a single folded note that read, "You deserve to know everything." My fingers trembled. I plugged the drive into the old laptop I'd set aside for secrets and watched a video file appear. Daniel, in our bedroom, on the night of our anniversary months ago, not with Lisa, but with me, scenes I didn't remember filming because I wasn't in them. My hands flew to my mouth. The camera angle was from the closet, the door slightly ajar. Footsteps, murmurs, a tone of voice I knew like an old song. I clicked the file and a face I didn't expect stared back. Me, younger, laughing, the skin under my eyes different, my hair pulled up, a wine-glassed apology half audible. The footage jumped to a voicemail. "Emily, don't tell him. He thinks I don't know. He thinks he can use the past to control the future." I felt the floor fall. My fingers scrolled through the files like a scavenger. Photos, receipts, a bank transfer in my name to a clinic months ago. The note that had come with the drive said, "You left something buried." So, did he? My chest hurt because I hadn't left anything, at least I thought I hadn't. I had gone numb for a while, and I had slept with Mark, Daniel's best friend. One night, after months of cold dinners and hollow bed. It had been a mistake, a soft spot thing born in the aftermath of a fight where I wanted to feel wanted. I told myself it meant nothing. A single night, a stupid moment. But there it was, recorded on a phone I'd left at the bar because the bartender had offered me a lighter and I'd forgotten to take it back. Daniel had found those texts. He had not only betrayed me with Lisa, he had what felt like weaponized my own failing and put it in a file. He'd used my single lapse to justify his months of betrayal to himself, to say, she's not innocent either, and to build a narrative that made him feel less monstrous. The drive contained not only my indiscretion but proof that Daniel had been feeding lies to other people, making himself the wounded party in the story he'd written to rationalize leaving. The man I had planned to watch suffer for his betrayal had been stacking shells in his pockets to fire back. The realization was an acid burn across everything I thought I was. I had imagined myself as a victim with clean hands, but the truth was more complicated. I had dirt under my nails, too. "You wanted proof," Lisa had whispered the day she confessed, tears steaming her cheeks. "So did I. You both did." That was the climax of the slow-motion disaster. Realizing that I wasn't a simple wronged wife, and he wasn't a simple cheater, and Lisa wasn't just a friend who'd made a mistake. We were all actors in a play none of us had written sober. The humiliations piled up. Board meetings for Daniel, court papers that smelled like dust and old paper, neighbors' whispers that crawled under my skin, and my own reflection in the mirror that I stopped recognizing. I considered leaving without a word, taking the accounts I'd opened and vanishing. I considered screaming everything to the world, posting every file online like some medieval judge, letting the mob have their feast. Instead, I did something surgically colder. I sat across from Daniel in the lawyer's office and laid down exactly what I had. My evidence, his evidence, everything. The lawyer looked at us like we were two animals circling a carcass. "There are civil and criminal implications here," she said. "Divorce will be messy." Daniel's jaw clenched. He looked at me with something like pleading. "We can fix this," he said. "I'll tell them it was a mistake." I almost laughed. "Which part?" I asked. "The affair? The embezzlement? The lying?" He didn't answer. But the twist that ripped through me and everyone around us wasn't just that we'd both betrayed one another. It was what came next. Claire, who had initially brought me the messages, had a secret too. The anonymous packet that started the investigation hadn't come from her. It had come from Lisa. I replayed the text strings in my head. "Don't tell her, please." Lisa had sent that to Daniel, not because she feared his discovery, but because she feared what Claire would do when she found out Lisa had been using Claire's brother as a ticket out of debt. Lisa, it turned out, had been blackmailed by a man with a small-time gambling ring who demanded money or threats to tell Claire about the affair. So she did what desperate people do. She lied, she slithered, she slept, and she paid. When she couldn't pay, she chose to expose Daniel quietly, to make sure he couldn't use the truth to walk away clean. She wanted him trapped with the mess he'd made. That would have been enough drama for a life. But there was one more cut. The final twist I hadn't seen coming. The anonymous drive with my footage? It came from Mark. The man I'd slept with once in a night of weakness had kept the phone and used the footage as leverage, against Daniel, against me, because he wanted something: control, revenge, proof that he mattered. He was the one who fed HR, who watched the boardroom burn, who smiled quietly as our lives crumbled. He fed pieces of our private lives to everyone: Claire, Lisa, the auditors, like a puppeteer cutting strings. The neat narrative that had comforted me, that I was the betrayed and he was the betrayer, exploded into 1,000 jagged shards. We were all culpable, all weaponized, all wounded. So what did I do? I did the thing that felt like both revenge and mercy. I walked into the company meeting with the packet I'd been compiling, the receipts, the hotel bookings, the texts, and I handed a copy to the auditors and a copy to the press. I walked into Daniel's mother's kitchen and told her everything. I called Claire and told her the truth about Lisa's blackmail. I told Lisa I knew about the debt and offered to help, which made her cry so hard she couldn't breathe. I told Mark to get out of my life and threatened to press charges if he ever touched a camera in my house again. That felt like control. That felt like blood in the water. But after the dust settled, after the divorce papers were signed and the company sent Daniel packing with a non-disclosure that smelled like defeat, even after we had all the facts in black and white, there was no triumphant roar. There was a silence that was louder than any applause. I had wanted him to hurt, to regret, to know he'd lost the life he'd thrown away. He did hurt, publicly, privately, but so did I. And so did Lisa. Claire found new resolve. Mark disappeared. The neighbors moved on. The PDA met without us. I moved into a smaller apartment and learned how to sleep without someone else turning away from me in the dark. Some nights I replay the timeline in my head and try to parse where things went wrong, what choice started the avalanche. Other nights I sit on the floor and cry for the life that will never be the same. There's a strange freedom in that ruin, like the land after a controlled burn, where new growth will happen, messy and unpredictable. The real twist, the last one that keeps me awake most nights, is this. If you'd asked me 2 years ago whether I would ever hurt someone intentionally, I'd have laughed and called you cruel. But humiliation teaches strange lessons. I learned that truth is a weapon and a salve, and that sometimes people you love become the instruments of your undoing. I learned that fidelity isn't just about bodies. It's also about honesty and accounting, and the shadows we keep in our phones. I learned that revenge feels hollow when you realize it will never bring back what you lost. So here I am, months later, not healed but moving through the days like someone learning to read again. I coach my son's soccer team on Saturdays and make coffee for neighbors who knock on my door, because small acts of normalcy stitch you back together in ways grand gestures never do. I still have files, backups, lawyers on speed dial, just in case. I still answer the occasional ping of my phone and feel the old familiar spike of fear. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of Daniel in a grocery store and my heart stutters. I pretend not to see him because I don't want the old volcano to erupt. Sometimes Lisa sends me a message asking if I'm okay. I reply because I remember that she once held my hand and sobbed about boys and jobs like we were kids. We are all a mess. We are all broken in some new way. And most nights, when the house is quiet and the city hums beyond the window, I think about tests of loyalty and about who gets to design them. Who decides what constitutes a test? Who decides when pain is deserved and when it's cruelty? I had thought I could be the architect of justice. Instead, I found I was just another flawed human who broke and was broken and who had, in turn, broken others. So I'm asking you because I can't ask anyone in my real life without sounding like a monster or a martyr or a mess. What would you do if you found out the person you trusted most had been living a double life, and then you found out you weren't as innocent as you thought you were? He called me last week. After all these months, I almost didn't answer, but curiosity is a cruel addiction. His voice sounded smaller, older. Emily, he said quietly, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. There was no anger left in me, just exhaustion. You should be, I said, but I think we both know sorry doesn't fix what we destroyed.
He sighed.
I still think about you. I know, I said. That's the punishment. We stayed silent for a long time before I hung up.
I didn't cry.
I didn't even shake. I just sat there, watching the sunlight crawl across the floor, realizing how far I'd come from the woman who once waited by the window for him to come home. Now, when people ask if I believe in second chances, I say yes, but not for the same people. For yourself. For the version of you that survived. Because forgiveness isn't about letting them back in, it's about letting yourself out. I don't know what Daniel's doing now. I heard he left town. Maybe started over somewhere new. Lisa moved away too. Maybe they're still together, maybe not. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I finally sleep through the night. No more checking phones, no more pretending. Just quiet. Honest quiet. Sometimes I still dream about that night in the driveway, the moment I saw them, and I wake up with that same hollow ache. But now I let it pass. Because pain is temporary and clarity is permanent. And maybe that's what this whole mess was about, seeing clearly for the first time. Not about him, not about her.
About me.
About who I am when everything else burns down. So that's it. That's my story. A story about love, betrayal, revenge, and the slow rebirth that comes after you lose everything you thought you couldn't live without. Now tell me, what would you do if the person you loved most became the reason you had to rebuild yourself from the ashes?